blog. We've made a few modifications to the way we run things around here. First of all, we will now be using the BCS rankings rather than the AP poll. Also, because our last video was quite long, we have narrowed our picks down to 10 games and we've added some new features. So let's move right into those new features. Our first one is underrated games of the week. John, what game do you like?
My underrated game is going to be Oregon State at USC. Oregon State's kept the game close the past few years, even winning it last year. I think the same will happen. Jackie Rogers should have a decent amount of success, unlike most running backs against USC. So Oregon State will keep it close against USC.
Ryan, what game do you like?
I think Auburn LSU is going to be closer than people think. I think Gus Malzahn's offense is going to keep him in this, but I think LSU is going to pull it out in the end.
My pick for underrated game of the week is Tennessee at Alabama. It's a big rivalry game, and I think Lane Kiffin will have his kids ready to play. We'll move into our upset specials. John, what's your pick for upset special?
Mine's South Florida at Pittsburgh. South Florida is a very good team. They were ranked last week, but not any longer after losing to Cincinnati. I think they'll shut down Pittsburgh's offense, and their quarterback Daniels will have a fair amount of success.
Ryan, who do you see getting upset?
I'm going to go with the big upset this week. I'm going to pick Iowa State over Nebraska. I think if Iowa State can get Alexander Robinson going early against the good Husker D, they should be able to upset Nebraska with their backup QB and Helu dinged up this week.
My upset is Michigan over Penn State. The game's at the big house in Michigan, and Michigan has yet to lose there, so I think they're going to keep that streak going. On the other hand, we're going to go with our locks of the week. Ryan, who do you think is most likely to win this week?
I think it's Houston. They play SMU this week, and I think Keenum and the Cougars should have no problem beating Southern Methodist at home.
John?
My lock is Oregon at Washington. I think Jeremiah Masoli will keep building on his rapport with his tight end Ed Dixon, and they'll have no problem beating him.
Well, I think Texas Tech is going to have a monster game against Texas A&M. Of course, Texas Tech coming off a big win against Nebraska last week, while Kansas State put a whooping on Texas A&M. So I think Texas A&M and Taylor Potts is going to be a player to watch. Speaking of players to watch, John, who do you think's going to have a good game this week?
I'm going with Ryan Broyles, wide receiver for Oklahoma. In the 2 games that he played with Landry Jones, he scored 3 touchdowns in each of them. I think he'll continue that success against Kansas.
Right.
I'm going to go with Ryan Matthews, running back from Fresno State. He's the leading rusher in the nation, and he's going up against a very weak New Mexico State rush defense. Should have loads of yards and at least a couple of scores.
I'm going to go with wide receiver Aaron Valentine from Purdue. In each of his last 4 games, he's got a touchdown pass. In the last 3 games, he has 5 touchdown passes. He played a big role in the Ohio State upset and is up against a very vulnerable Illinois team. We're going to move into our picks. Our first game is Kansas versus Oklahoma. Once again, Oklahoma will have to move on without quarterback Sam Bradford when the Sooners visit Kansas. Landry Jones, who has thrown for 11,000 yards, minus
Even 1,100. That's okay.
minus 10,000 yards and 11 touchdowns. The Jayhawks are coming off their first loss of the season. The Jayhawks' last victory over the Sooners came in 1997. John, who do you see winning this game?
I'm going to take Oklahoma. Like before I said, I think Ryan Broyles will have success against Kansas. Should be a pretty high-scoring game, I think. Ultimately, Oklahoma will win.
Right?
I think the better defense is going to win this one, so I think it's going to be Oklahoma. I think they'll slow down Kansas just enough to come out of Lawrence with a W.
I think Oklahoma's defense is strong, and I think Oklahoma's the overall better team, so I'm going to go with Oklahoma. Our next matchup is Pittsburgh versus South Florida. The last time Pittsburgh won 7 of its first 8 games, Dan Marino was its offensive leader. If the Panthers are going to equal the feat this year, it'll be thanks to the feat of Dion Lewis. The Pittsburgh freshman is 3rd in the country in rushing, but he'll face a stout defense in South Florida, which ranks 18th in total defense. Ryan, who do you see winning this one?
I think the Bulls are going to pull off the upset in this one. I think they're beating Pittsburgh in every major offensive category, and they've been very good defenses so far this year. They should slow down Lewis.
John, what do you think?
Like I said before, South Florida's going to pull off the upset here. No problem.
I'm going to go with Pittsburgh because of the stash, and that's my only reasoning. Our next matchup is Penn State at Michigan. Michigan looks to continue its dominance at home against Penn State. Penn State hasn't won there in Ann Arbor since 1996. The Nittany Lions have won 3 straight by a combined score of 107-20 since losing at home to Iowa. Ryan, who do you like in this game?
I think Royster and Penn State will have a good game. I think the Lions will come out of Ann Arbor with a W.
John?
I'm I'm going to take Penn State as well. Although I think Darrell Clark's going to be the one leading them to victory. He had a good game against Minnesota last week. I think he'll continue that against Michigan.
As I said earlier, I think Michigan is going to come up with the upset in this one. Our next game is Georgia Tech at Virginia. Georgia Tech looks to build off its upset win over Virginia Tech when it visits Virginia. The Yellow Jackets' running game is in high gear, leading the nation in rushing yards. After dropping their first 3, the Cavaliers have turned things around with 3 straight wins. John, do you see Virginia getting the 4th straight win?
No, I don't. I think Nesbitt's going to keep having success running the option offense. I think he'll score as well as their running back. Blanking on his name right now. What is it?
Dwyer. Jonathan Dwyer.
Jonathan Dwyer.
Yep.
He'll score at least a couple too. And Georgia Tech will win.